personally, I truly believe that food makes just such a huge difference in how we feel and think and are. And then there's still today, I think it's difficult to understand what food even is, right?
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Would you agree to that? So.
And there, again, you see this ideological overlay. And I've been caught up in different ideological tribes at different times myself. So I'm absolutely speaking to myself more than anyone. But and again, you come back to this Adam and Eve and this purity idea, and you see it all the time. Like there's a big raw milk movement right now in the US. This is a absolutely categorically terrible idea. There are real benefits of raw milk. There are not real benefits of raw milk in our industrialized society. And it's just this very weird thing where the people advocating for raw milk have clearly never been to a dairy farm. Because if you did, you'd never want to eat raw milk. Milk is very interesting. Dairy is very interesting. There's nutritional things and ferments, and all these things are true. But this is a modern food product that requires fermentation or requires pasteurization to be safe. And so what you have is this very weird outbreak of tuberculosis and other weird things. And again, you have this drive, and I have this too, of if only we could eat like Jesus. If only we could eat like they did in the Sinai. If only we could go back to Jerusalem or whatever it is. And we can't, and we won't, and we don't. And that's hard for people to accept. And the level of change is very difficult for people to wrap their heads around. And they have this idea that a cow is somehow a wild animal when a cow is as domesticated as you or I. And there are very little diversity. There are wildish animals out there, but when we start to look at diet and we start to think about eating naturally, it's very confusing because almost nothing is natural. And even the things that are natural are only natural in the span of the past couple hundred years. So what that means is we have to navigate an engineered food system, and that's really hard. And it doesn't matter what it is, your sockeye salmon to your grass-fed beef to your tofu to your oranges. It's all part of this food system, which is really complex. And I think where people, and myself included, get most tripped up is trying to go back and thinking that our best days are behind us and somehow 100 years ago, that's our ideal and we're going to have a chicken in the backyard and milk our own cow, and none of those things are going to happen. I had a friend in Spain. He got really hooked on this idea. I thought it was a beautiful idea of permaculture, and his extended family had some land. And so he started raising organic chickens and trying to grow lettuce. And he spent about a year doing this project. And the actual financial cost was so exorbitant for him to grow lettuce and organic chickens that he had to abandon the whole project. I mean, a chicken was costing him 50 euros or something like this, and a head of lettuce was like 8 euros. And the disconnection from the land, people don't realize they're so disconnected. They don't realize we actually can't afford to go back to the land. You can't afford your family farm. It's so expensive. And the quote unquote family farms right now, I grew up, part of my growing up in farm country, and there were some people back then in the 80s. There are now no humans in farming. Farming is automated. Farming is machines. Farming is different. And so with that in mind, you have to take a different perspective with diet and really stop focusing on what to eat and start focusing on how to eat. Big trends, big ideas. Because the food and access and limitations in Bangkok versus in Belgium, in London versus in Los Angeles, they're just very different. And there are very healthy people in Bangkok and there are very unhealthy people in Bangkok, and the same thing in Los Angeles. And so coming back to what we chatted about before, if you can get away from the ideologues, if you can get away from retrospective, thinking that the past is behind us, and really just focus on what is. And what is we have a very complex food system. We have a very efficient and interesting and problematic food system. And then the question is, how can I navigate with what is? And that becomes a simpler question, and the choices become a lot easier to make. And what I mean by that is if you talk to a 65-year-old about starting ultramarathon, they'll just shake their head no. It's just not going to happen. They're aware of that, right? They have to accept. But if you talk to somebody right now, like we went around Zurich, I'm sure we could find a whole bunch of young people who seriously believe that they can create and grow all the food they need on half a hectare of land efficiently. A lot of them believe this, and it's not true. So we need to accept that this system we're all living in, we need it. It's good. It can be good. It can be better. And then from that, we can start to navigate with our wonky knees, with our complex food choices, and things get a lot simpler. But it's one of the hardest things because food is pleasure, and food is culture, and food is history, and food is celebration. And then food is also nutrition. And so trying to unpack that, it's like this emotional conflict, moral, ethical time bomb. And this is why so many of us get so explosive about it on social media.